Anthony's sharp writing and wry humor has resulted in his nominations for a Crime Writers of Canada Arthur Ellis Award, Saskatchewan Book Awards, and a Relit Award. Flight of the Aquavit was awarded the Lambda Literary Award for Best Men's Mystery, making Anthony the first Canadian to win in that category. In Dos Equis, this 8th book in the series, we follow Russell from the Saskatchewan winter to the pristine beaches of Mexico's Costa Grande in this tale of love, loss, lies, and coming home. We are so very pleased to have Anthony Bidulka here tonight to read from his book and to speak with us about his work. Please welcome Anthony Bidulka.
Thank you, Marcy, and thank all of you for being here. I tend to try, when I'm writing each of these books, to give each one a very distinct flavor. So, for instance, there's one book in the series that I think is probably the spookiest. One is probably the funniest of the group. One has a little bit more romance in it than some of the others. This book I consider my caper book. So think Ocean's 11 Russell Quant style, where he has to gather all of his friends and his family and go on this great adventure to Mexico, including his very Ukrainian mother. Now, Kay Quant, not only has she never been out of Saskatchewan, but she's never even been on an airplane. So to get her to Mexico ended up being a bit of an adventure of its own. I will always regret being unable to accompany my mother on the occasion of her first airplane voyage. Instead, that pleasure went to my good friends Anthony and Jared. Now, according to Anthony, it wasn't exactly a three-ring circus, but it was close. Her carry-on was locked with a padlock, the kind she uses to secure the diesel fuel tanks on her farm. Of course, she couldn't find the key and eventually acquiesced to the security inspector's request to cut it off with a pair of bolt cutters. Inside, they found a jar of borscht and a margarine container of still warm pierogies. Apparently this was for snacking on the airplane because she'd heard how little they feed you. Thank you. Not just raise your hand and shout out your question, and I'll do my best to give you an answer or a good lie, whatever I can come up with. Yes.
You travel so very much yourself. How on earth do you pin it down to just one location for a book?
I've always believed that the story has to come first. As I was thinking about, so if I write another Russell Quant, where would I set it? Just last spring, I came back from a great month traveling all over Asia, particularly Vietnam really got my interest up, and I took tons of pictures there. I wrote a lot of things in my journal about Vietnam, and I really felt that's where I want Russell to go next. So as I was conceptualizing the outline for what could be the next book, I immediately knew that Vietnam was going to be the place, and I started thinking along the lines of what type of story would fit into the location. So really the answer to your question is that it happens both ways.
Do you plan on doing like a crossover in the future between the Russell Quant books and the Adam Saint books?
You know, actually, I have thought about that. The characters are certainly in the same time period, and they're both in types of profession where I think they probably could cross over. Marcy's going to give you a couple announcements, but thank you, everyone.